they've got it. They've never been a tie in Europe. You give points, Graham. Come on.
Well, you're the English jury. You can have the casting vote. I don't mind, but I like the way that what Cazorla did was, like, you've got these little diagonal little football trampolines that you throw the ball against and it bounces off, and at training you practice volleys, and that's what Cazorla became, because the skill to cushion the ball coming at him from that height deliberately to lay it on to Gerrard's left foot, and then what you want is, however delicious the assist is, you do want the completion, you do want the jouissance. Gerrard provides that because the goal itself is utterly exceptional anyway. I call it a tie because Benzema can't see his partner. He's going to produce effectively something akin to a backheel nutmeg. It's extremely daring. It comes to open the scoring just before half-time. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I certainly won't argue about which is the winner. But I think they both speak loudly about why the world watches La Liga and why La Liga is back to win, because you don't see genius like that in 2 games in the space of 2 hours in other countries. You simply don't. Spain at that level is by far the best league in the world.
Very, very true. Well, I'm interested to know what people think. I'm sure it'll become a debate. Get onto social media and discuss it amongst yourselves on there and be polite to each other. Which was the best assist today, Santi Cazorla or Karim Benzema? They were both magnificent. That's one thing we can say. And another thing we can say is that Espanyol are making a change at the break. It's in the left-back position where Didac Villa is off, and that young man, Adri Pedrosa, comes on. And what will that give Espanyol, Graham?
I hope pace and confidence. He's certainly quicker than Didac, younger. His sprint is extraordinary. And confidence, I hope, because I thought that when that Woolai chance was created down in Seville, the way in which Pedrosa and Melamed linked up down the left-hand side was absolutely stunning. Not just in terms of pace, but intelligence too. It's a very attacking substitution from Rivetti. He accepts that Pedrosa is pushing forward, and there may be gaps for Madrid to attack down the right. But at 1-0 down and 10 points away from salvation, you understand why he spun the dice.
Well, you might as well lose 3-0 as 1-0 if you're Espanyol, and having gone at least for the point as a bare minimum they have to pick up. They're starting very much to run out of time now. 10 points adrift of safety. Been a terrible few days for the bottom 3. They've, between them so far, won one of their 14 games combined since the restart, and all the other teams around them have been winning. That's made it even worse, with the likes of Eibar and Celta picking up points, which look like at the moment it's going to leave them safe in the bottom 3 as it is. Sergio Ramos with a nonchalant back header to Thibaut Courtois. No changes from Real Madrid at the break. And still we see Fede Valverde on the right-hand side. It looks like there's not a change in that structural approach either. It's Toni Kroos. Casemiro, the beneficiary of the Benzema assist. Marcelo was fouled by Bernardo, but referee allowing advantage because possession is retained. Long possession from Real Madrid to start the second half, settle into their stride again, and what about that long crossfield pass for Dani Carvajal to chase down? Now Benzema. Clearance comes this time up to RDT, who spins away, keeps possession with the pass to David Lopez, then Darder, and is played across the Espanyol back line. Forward from Adri Pedrosa with the help of a deflection, but it runs through harmlessly to Thibaut Courtois. Interesting to see, Graham, in this second half how Espanyol respond to that game. Tactically, how much they're willing to risk, how soon they're willing to risk it, because they've got to go forward, they need the points, but they can't be reckless. They know that they've got Real Madrid up against them, who can get in behind them and effectively finish the game by scoring a second game. So it's a delicate balance for the home team to strike.
It's quite right, and do they have as much stamina as Real Madrid? Certainly they don't have as much confidence that momentum of self-belief. So they're in a precarious position, but they have a decent structure. They were second best in the first half, probably only by that margin of a goal. One of the figures who was absolutely central to that was the man on the ball right now, who it falls to us to say won the most aerial duels. He recovered the ball most, he had the most shots, the most interceptions, most shots on target, and of course he became the goal scorer. Casemiro is not a one-man machine, but tonight he's doing a fair facsimile of that.
There's a good ball in and a chance for Wu Lei, who stabbed it rather tentatively. It was Victor Gomez who got away down the right, and he sent in the cross that was into the stride of Wu Lei, and he talked about his confidence being maybe fragile at the moment, and that wasn't a particularly confident strike.
Agreed. If you look at the way he scored the second against Alaves in their only win since the restart, he had the run through, he sized things up, finished easily. Since then, including that moment that must scar him where he knocks the ball straight back to Robles, and Robles made a gymnastic save, or a really split second save. Ulai's decision making then, I think, is living with him at the moment. He has failed to take Ramos on once, then taken him on and dive, then shot over a couple of times in the really early stages when the break was there. He hesitated on pulling the trigger. It has cost him, and given that he is not a natural striker, you can understand why, but how it must be frustrating for Fetty that this guy keeps getting into positions where he can't put the ball in the net.
Still plenty of time for Espanyol, and they have shown signs of being able to create danger tonight. As Marcelo gets forward, trying to turn away from Bernardo, who holds him up, makes contact a couple of times, much to Marcelo's chagrin, but play goes on. Cruz works it wide to Carvajal. Casemiro with the deep cross that's going to stay in play, and Marcelo shouts to Isco to leave it for him. Now Isco whips the cross deep, Benzema across goal, and that was probably heading in, needed the quick reaction of Diego Lopez, sending his palm to meet the ball and bat it away. Let's see if it was going in. It wasn't offside, that's for sure, so it would have stood, and yeah, that was goal-bound, Graham.
But at the other end of the move, look how much time Espanyol, who knew what was going to happen, because Marcelo yelled, I'll go in and I'll play it out to you. Espanyol didn't react, didn't read the shout. Then when Isco was on the ball, they effectively allowed the quarterback no interference whatsoever so that he could pick his spot. So, yeah, finally not a goal. Lopez did well. Benzema typically at the back post, but did well. But whatever their system is, whatever changes they're making at left back and the pace they're looking for there, if they give guys who can just cut a game open like a ripe peach being sliced by a knife, then they're going to lose. That was really poor.
As Valverde can't quite control cleanly, Pedrosa takes it away from him. This was a chance again for Wu Lei, and really a very presentable one. There was just an element of hesitation as he hit it, maybe saw that the challenge was coming.
You can understand he was looking for, it's very like the goal Iniesta scored in the World Cup 2010 against Chile, looking just to play a snooker shot into the far right-hand corner. And it doesn't need a great big drawback of his foot before the strike. It just needs to be timed better so that the half volley takes it with the power into the far corner. The concept was fine, just the execution was typical of a guy whose confidence is a little bit depleted.
Benzema pulling over to the left wing, finding Hazard. Something we're going to be saying for on many occasions in the years to come. Isco finds Carvajal. Crosses a little short, hit it away by Bernardo. Runs up and under back towards goal, and the unceremonious clearance by Cabrera.
And all the players in green will be well aware that on the touchline right now, both Vinicius and Rodrigo are warming up. There will be substitutions relatively soon, you'd say. Typically for Zidane, it would be around minute 62, 63 as they look to take a tired Espanyol and make them chase after the ball and create openings up front.
There's another free kick, and it's Hazard who was brought down, and this one is in shooting range and not a dissimilar position to where Sergio Ramos found the top corner against Mallorca a few days ago. Interesting that That was Real Madrid's first free kick goal in something like a year and a half, wasn't it? And they haven't had a regular taker of free kicks since Cristiano Ronaldo left. And to be honest, by the end of his time in Madrid, he very rarely scored from them anyway. So they haven't really been a threat from set pieces for quite a while.
It's doubly strange because they put in hours and hours of practice across a month on shooting from outside the box in open play, and they are one of the teams that hits the target more often, and they have players who are ultra confident about having the set up, rolled the ball to them outside. The dead ball should hit a forward, not that dissimilar, but your stats are right. I think it was, whatever it was, about something like 60, 70 attempts at that goal until step forward Ramos.
He's not there this time, but Casemiro is to drive it in straight into the wall. Roulet trying to chase it down, but Carvajal will get there first. Kroos onto Hazard. Casemiro has time. Clips it nicely for Toni Kroos, Marcelo, Isco. Oh, nice pass out to Hazard in a bit of space. He can have a run at Victor Gomez here. Comes back to Kroos. Ramos has sneaked forward, but Kroos taking on the shot himself. And it just shows the confidence that Real Madrid have in the control they have over the game. Well, the confidence that Sergio Ramos had, that maybe sneaking into the left of the pitch. No, we didn't quite see him, but he was making a forward run from centre-back to join in with the attack. That shows the confidence that Ramos feels about the way this game is going for his team. Nice to see that sparkling young talent again. Looks like we will before too long. Vinicius Junior in spectacular form at the moment.
Yeah, if the stadium announcer had a sense of humour, he'd be playing the Jaws theme right now. Danger's coming
to get you. It's Marcelo, brought down by Adrien Barba. 10 minutes into the second half.
Not a hint of criticism, Andy, but we've seen 3 challenges today, at least 3, whereby every other referee in Spain would have given a yellow card. This guy is just a lot more permissive.
And players, obviously they know that. They know what he's like, and they play within those parameters, don't they? When you know what the referee's going to allow and not, then you accept it.
The only player on the pitch who didn't read the referee, hasn't studied him, maybe doesn't have enough experience in Spain. He's, what is he, about a year and a half years, Roulet, when he tried to kid the referee. That's the verb I want to use. It's not the only verb. When his little dive past Sergio Ramos to try and buy a free kick, and Mateo, whatever else is said about Mateo Lopez, is very pardon me, excuse my slip, referee, is an extremely athletic, extremely experienced, and very talented referee. He genuinely is. He was in the right position to read that. And I think that generally his standards are very good. It's just that he's slightly idiosyncratic.
Slightly, you could say. And I hope he doesn't hear you very temporarily forgetting his name, because I'm pretty sure he wants to make sure that no one ever forgets his name.
That seems to have been his mission in general. Maybe I can just pretend I did it just to tease him.
There's Carvajal driving with menace, but a good challenge initially from Roca, and it comes back to him. Ball forward, but Varane fouls. Free kick for Espanyol.
Espanyol, as well as not having a lot of the ball, aren't finding a way out in midfield. They're finding fewer passing options. People, Darder, for example, I think needs to show more, needs to be better positioned to pick the ball up, by his entire team more, by holding possession well and then using it well. They were beginning to just look a little bit overwhelmed.
It's Roulet who comes off. The second change, I should say, for Espanyol, as they brought on Pedrosa at the break. And Oscar Malendo, who is technically gifted. He's physically tiny, but small things, good packages, something like that.
He's tremendously quick in the dribble. He's a player that can exploit spaces. It's good to see him being trusted.
Here's Hazard. He can certainly make things happen as well. Find Benzema. Hazard is lingering now for a cutback. He'll get another backheel flick, and then the attempted cross from Hazard takes a deflection behind for a corner. Real Madrid looking to turn the screw here as There's a Rabona from Hazard with the cross. They're starting to express themselves and enjoy themselves a little bit now. If they get the second goal, they'll feel even more comfortable. Marcelo. Can't find Benzema. And that will harmlessly go through to Diego Lopez. Mark Roca and Sergi Darder back to Bernardo. That's a nice pass for Melendo, who picks up a pocket of space and works it on well to Victor Gomez. Back to Melendo. Another nice pass out to the right for Mbarba. Delivery into the box is good as well, and Varane up and under, and good job for Thibaut Courtois. You said earlier, Graham, that Diego Lopez is 7'6" when his arms are extended. I don't know what Thibaut Courtois is, but more than tall enough to take that cross.
Something similar. I knew we were watching a physical specimen when word started to reach us that as a young under-21 goalkeeper for Belgium, he would often show off to his teammates by kicking the crossbar. He can, in a sort of Bruce Lee Kung Fu style, he can raise his foot high enough to kick the underside of the crossbar.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Zinedine Zidane encourages that.
My eyes are watering, Andy, to be frank.
Well, he's a big basketball fan, is Courtois. Imagine him throwing down a few slam dunks as well.
There was another interesting little incident here, which maybe Matteo Loz didn't see, but again, I would suggest many referees would be reaching for a card there. Look at that. That stat about, never mind how many times you have the ball, that pass accuracy. If Darder is receiving the ball significantly less than any of the Real Madrid midfielders, his use of the ball, those stats tell us, has been, even if I'm careful with my adjective, atrocious.
Oh, I thought you were going to be kinder and say disappointing. Disappointing is the nice get out, isn't it?
45% when you're punching for your life at the bottom of LaLiga, you've been picked in Raffetti's first team. No matter how few passes you get, your accuracy must be up about 85-90.
There's Isco, no foul, play going on. The permissiveness again of Matteo Loth. And again, as Casemiro is not adjudged to a fouled RDT, Isco is slowly getting back to his feet. Play continuing on the other side with Benzema. He's got Marcelo alongside him. And Toni Kroos now. Didn't want to shoot on his left foot, so instead he gives it to Marcelo, who finds Isco. Kills it instantly with the first touch and has it back again now. Hazard is the furthest player forward through the middle. Benzema dropping. No sense of urgency from Real Madrid, but there doesn't need to be. They have the lead. And other than that one break from Gomez, which gave the chance to Wule, Espanyol haven't really threatened in the second half. Real Madrid looking comfortable at the moment.
The one thing, they've got a pending assignment, which is to kill games off when they're in charge. They have won everything so far since the restart, but there have been long passages of play in each match where they haven't said to the opponent, we've put you to bed. Now, maybe the move that we're about to see is part of that, but the team and the squad's character needs to become, so that they are elite, significantly more ruthless when they're in charge of matches.
That's something that's often said on an individual level about Vinicius, no doubt about his devastating talent, but his end product, either the ball into the box or the finish, has not always been the level required, but he produced a great finish to score the opener against Mallorca a few days ago, and that will give him confidence to start doing that more regularly, as the whistle does blow this time for the foul on Marcelo by Victor Gomez. Well, was it a foul or was it a handball? You could pick either. And it's going to be a double swap, in fact, with Rodrigo Goes also coming on, so two young Brazilians. And Eden Hazard, one to make way. I imagine that the other will be Isco. Indeed it is. So, predictable changes. Two players coming back from injury. Protect them for the games that lie ahead and unleash the Brazilian flair.
There's an expression here, isn't there? De menos a más, starting low, growing. That's certainly been Isco's performance tonight for me. He looks, again, in absolute elite sporting terms, just a tiny bit chunky still, which after a long time out is not a terrible sin, but that is not the ultimate athlete Isco that we know. And with Hazard, just looked a little bit fatigued. Each of them have contributed, but imagine you're Espanyol now, and you have to think about both the tricks and the pace and the determination of these two young Brazilians who've come on.
One of them, Rodrigo, trying to get in behind there as Carvajal threads the pass, but it didn't have enough on it. And then Varane is penalised for tugging the shirt of RDT. Wanted a closer look at those initials. Ripped it as well.
Ripped it as well, but it's typical of Mateo that what he wanted to try and do was see whether Espanyol took an advantage, brings it back. That's perfectly decent referee.
Pedrosa down the line, Carvajal there to intercept, but his touch was a little heavy on the control, so it's out for
That's like, okay, 5 subs, but now how many times can I... That's a new coach.
Yeah.
Just tell me how the rules work again.
Yeah, well, just for anyone out there who isn't certain, you can make 5 subs now. They have to be at 3 different phases of the game, as Vinicius, his first act is to foul Melendo. But when you make a sub at half time, that doesn't count as one of your 3 stoppages because the game is naturally stopped anyway. So Rufete, having made 1 change at half time, another one with the introduction of Melendo, still has 2 more breaks in play to make changes, and he has 3 more substitutions available. I hope that is vaguely clear.
Well explained. Both that rule and the cooling drinks breaks, I think, have been exceptional. I think we've seen a far lower degree of injuries after such a long shutdown and such a short time for players to be at the physical peak. And the introduction of both rules have helped that immensely. I'm deeply in admiration for those who came up with them, and I'm glad that they've been enacted.
Rather, Tomas with the free kick that Courtois had to push away. He didn't trust himself as the ball bounced through to him to hold it cleanly, so he took the safe option by just palming it out wide, as goalkeepers are coached to do.
Under the Trades Description Act, can we call that a wall, Andy?
Not sure it would be one you'd like to have as part of your house. As the throw-in comes in long, and there's a clash of heads in there.
You know, he's still not athletically fully match fit, match sharp, but we've seen tonight exactly what Espanyol have been missing during the games where the ownership decided to sack Abelardo. He's had 75 minutes before tonight out of the 360 available, not 1 start. They've been extremely shot shy. They've been extremely short of that killer instinct in front of goal. And RDT, had he been fit from the restart onwards, 1, Espanyol wouldn't be 10 points adrift. 2, Abelardo would still be in a job. How's your luck, Abelardo? That's what I ask. How's your luck?
Not good. Not good for Espanyol all season. 4th manager now. Started off with David Gallego, who was promoted to replace Ruby when he left to Betis. Then he wasn't given too long before Pablo Machin came in, and then it was Abelardo, and now it's Rufete. As Vinicius finds Toni Kroos. Benzema, edge of the box, looking to turn, met by Cabrera, who wouldn't allow him to. Carvajal wins it back. Approaching the midway point of the second half now, and still just the 1 goal in the game. A close range finish from Casemiro just before half time. Benzema, the provider of that goal, finding Carvajal. Excellent tackle by Pedrosa. Maybe then fouled Carvajal, but once again, something we've talked about many times, Mateo Lahoz letting it go because Real Madrid had possession.
Now he gets a ticking off from Sergio Ramos.
And who's the yellow card for? For Carvajal, he seems to be waving it at.
We know Danny Carvajal well now. He's the victim here. He loses the ball, is tough enough to get back to win it. There's a foul, and it's bad enough, number 1, to merit his ire, and 2, to merit a booking. But Carvajal is a fierce character, and his entreaties to the referee certainly seem to have been punished by a yellow card, I would say.
He didn't take it in silence, Danny Carvajal, although he's, as you say, quite justified to
It's an
feel upset with that challenge.
foul, Andy. It's a scrape with the studs down the back of the Achilles. You're just going to see it there. That's ugly.
Yeah.
That can do enormous damage to a footballer. Your Achilles tendon is one of the worst injuries you could possibly get, and frankly, it's a judgment call, not a fact, but it looked as if it was fully intentional.
Well, the caption going up to show that Pedrosa was the one booked, as he deserved to be for the challenge, but Mateo Lahoz was not waving it in his direction, so we'll have that cleared up.
It'll all be in his report.
Another change is introduction of what you could call a proper centre forward, Jonathan Kayeri. He's an old-fashioned target man.
I knew the phrase old-fashioned was coming now.
There you go. I'd like to be predictable for you.
No, it's accurate.
He's a target man who will get onto long balls, chase into channels. He links up play well, and Raul de Tomas will try to feed off him now.
I'm sure he's blameless, but this is slightly becoming the Mateo Lahoz show, isn't it?
Oh, there's another change as well with Darder going off, and on comes Nico Malamed, who performed brightly in a few minutes at Betis. He did it a few days ago, 19 years old. That was his debut there, so his second appearance now.
Shares a passport, if he chooses to, with Leo Messi, and he shares a neighbourhood. He was born in the little seaside town where Messi and Luis Suarez now live, and he's a joint nationality, Spanish and Argentinian. And boy, against Betis, he looked sharp and intelligent.
So he has come on the left wing in the reshuffle for Espanyol. Kayeri up front with Raul de Tomas, Melendo on the right of midfield, Roca and David Lopez in the middle.
And we need to make the point, although Madrid are in control, both scoreline and in terms of possession, they cannot afford not to win this. If they want to be champions, they've been presented, thanks to Celta, with a big opportunity. And right now, Zidane will be troubled. He'll be disappointed and angry that they haven't put this out of sight.
There's Oscar Melendo showing his technical ability, getting forward and drawing the challenge from Toni Kroos, which results in the foul. 20 minutes to play and still everything to play for. Only one goal in it, and Espanyol will not stop. They have every incentive to keep pushing.
And they won't win it on pace alone. But the introduction of Pedrosa, for example, Melendo and Melamed has added huge amounts of pace that will test what might be slightly flagging limited minds for Real Madrid. It's been a very busy period. Want to win the championship should make them almost invulnerable athletically, but sadly that's not always a medical fact. And Raffetti obviously believes that they're going to be younger and appear quicker and they can threaten Real Madrid. Let's see if he's right.
Here's Rodrigo, one of the two changes made by Zinedine Zidane so far. Valverde, Benzema, Rodrigo again. Benzema back to the Brazilian teenager. The challenge is made by Pedrosa. Real Madrid throw. Wonder if Zidane will be thinking of freshening things up in the centre of the field as well. He's made those two wide changes with Rodrigo on the right and Vinicius on the left, but everyone else has been on from the beginning. Here's Toni Kroos. Now Vinicius, the other substitute. Ramos to Vinicius. Taking on Melendo. Marcelo for Kroos. Casemiro. Finds its way to Valverde and now Carvajal and Rodrigo. This is the kind of patient, prolonged possession that we saw from Real Madrid at this stage of the first half. Espanyol content to defend their penalty area. There's Kroos now. Finds Casemiro. Now they look for penetration with the ball into Benzema. Lovely control. Brought that down superbly. And Marcelo with the cross. It's cleared by Bernardo, and Kayeri holds it up and turns to run. Does well. And here is young Nico Melamed. his first chance to shine. Keeps the ball moving for Espanyol. Over to the right. Melendo. In for Roca. David Lopez. It's a bit of a cat and mouse at the moment. Both teams may be anxious to avoid making a mistake. Espanyol want to make their still in the game, it feels like, until the last 10 minutes, and then maybe they can really go for it. Real Madrid not wanting to take any risks to allow the home team back into it, but that's nicely done by Melamed, and David Lopez with the shot. So nicely worked by Espanyol.
Melamed's a player. You can see his judgment, his control. He doesn't want to go outside Carvajal. Stops, buys himself time. The pass is absolutely perfect. It's glimpses. I haven't seen a lot of his junior football, but the glimpses in the midweek down against Betis, and now tell you that through their academy, and their academy bears a super reputation. It genuinely does. They worry that often bigger clubs, particularly Barcelona, come and pinch little jewels from them. Melamed looks like another one so far.
Yeah, he did do well at Betis on his debut in midweek. Well, what a chance to shine. We saw Luca Romero become the youngest player in LaLiga history when he came on for Mallorca against Real Madrid a few days ago, and now another teenager with an opportunity to show what he can do against one of the biggest and best teams in the world. Kroos stepping onto his right foot. Rodrigo has moved central. Squirms away from one challenge. Can't find Benzema, and Cabrera with a determined tackle and another. And Raul de Tomas does well, and look at the space for Melendo. Tries to slide a pass into the path of Cayeri, who was running beyond, but well broken up by Sergio Ramos. Approaching the half-hour mark of the second half, which means that at the next stoppage, the next suitable stoppage, we will have the drinks break. And I wonder if that will be the sign, Graham, for Espanyol to say, okay, last 15, now we go for it, because we've got to get at least a point here.
If you judge them to be overcautious since they brought the nippy young players on, I can understand it, but they know, or they've been reminded that when you drop your guard against Real Madrid, as they did just before halftime, you can be punished. So there does come a time when it's all in, but that all in probably comes in the last 10 minutes. At the moment, they've played with intelligence, a bit of structure, and if that ball had been fed through to Cayeri, they might have created a real goal-scoring chance. They're in this game, and I understand your point, they have to win to make their performance worthwhile, but I think that what they're attempting to do is play the substitutes in and then move higher up the pitch.
And we will have that drinks break now after the long ball from Varane is just too far ahead of Marcelo. As we see the Benzema heat map, he often drifts wider than that, doesn't he? He's restricted himself largely to central positions today, but had the key moment of the game with the brilliant back heel to set up the only goal so far.
But while we've got that huge red patch, so for anybody who's unaccustomed to this, that red patch say that these are the meters that he's been in most. Now look how they stretch from the edge of the penalty box all the way back to the central line. Take, for example, a LaLiga legend like Fernando Torres. When he went to Liverpool under Rafa Benitez said, I don't want to see you past, deeper than halfway of the opposition half. I want you to be hanging on wherever the last defender's shoulder is. I don't want you dropping back between halfway up the pitch and the central line. That's somebody else's job. We'll do the work there. Benzema does, and not many of them are wasted meters, Andy. So for a guy who's not long off turning 32, and you know that he's overtaken Puskás to be 5th all-time in the scoring list for Real Madrid, it shouldn't be the case that his career is marked by a period where he was domestic to team leader Cristiano Ronaldo and looked for Ronaldo first before he looked for his own benefit. And secondly, that heat map tells you very few elite strikers with as many goals as that man cover as many meters deep in the pitch. Across from side to side, looking for spaces, yes, I accept. He's a very unusual animal, and I think it's been our privilege to watch him for the last 11 seasons.
And he's arguably playing better than ever this season. Maybe the best of Benzema's career. As we return to the action. You made a comment earlier, Graham. You said you regard Real Madrid as champions-elect, champions in waiting. Do you still see that from what we've seen tonight? Have you remained convinced that they're the ones to take the title?
I remain convinced it's a two-part argument. One, they are Spain's best team, and I think since the restart, they've gone on to prove that, both via their resources, the freshness of certain players, and the special things that are done by a number of players across Zidane's squad. And the other part of it is that I foresaw from the time that the restart came, back to win is the slogan of LaLiga in Spain, but I didn't believe that would apply to Football Club Barcelona. I think that they have significant problems. They've got an extraordinary test with some players missing against Atleti at the Camp Nou on Tuesday. And frankly, I've felt for months that Real Madrid are the better side with the title. I think the gap, I do not see them giving up the gap they've got right now.
And remember, if they win this game, they will be 2 points clear of Barcelona, but it's effectively 3 points because in La Liga, it is head-to-head results that separate teams who are tied on points, not goal difference. And so, because the game at the Camp Nou, the Clásico at the Camp Nou was drawn, and the game at the Bernabeu was won by Real Madrid, that means Real Madrid have that edge. So if they are level on points, Real Madrid above Barcelona. So effectively, a 3-point lead at the end of tonight, unless Espanyol can pull something back here. There's a sense of a calm before the storm at the moment as we move towards the last 10 minutes with Espanyol, as we've said, still having that fairly cautious approach of not wanting to make sure they have nothing to play for in the final few minutes.
No, I agree with you, and despite my comments, which I stick by about Real Madrid, this will be a period of the restart, the last 20-25 minutes, which will trouble Zidane. He has resources on the bench. I still think that it's time that maybe James or Asensio came on into midfield, possibly for Cruz. Real Madrid have begun to look just a little bit flat. They're playing this game out rather than playing for the second. A second on the counter-attack is not beyond Real Madrid by any manner of means, but they don't have Espanyol kneeling in front of them. And Espanyol, even though for your taste they're still too deep, they're maybe not playing with enough sporting aggression, they are in this game as much as they've been at any stage, and they carry a moderate underlying level of threat. And Zidane will be extremely nervous about the remaining 10 minutes of natural time and whatever added time there is too.
You can see Zinedine Zidane there, right on the edge of the pitch. He's almost on it. He's so involved in the game. Espanyol with a fairly lengthy passage of possession here. It's with Cabrera. Marc Roca dances past Rodrigo. Inside to RDT. He lost it to Cruz, but the referee allowing play to go on as it's worked wide to Victor Gomez. He is challenged by Vinicius, and that's not a foul either. Anything goes. Vinicius sprints away, looking for that counter-attacking threat that you mentioned. Finding Benzema, and now Rodrigo taking on the shot, which is solidly blocked by Adric Pedrosa, and out for the throw-in.
Yeah, tonight they've struggled to find their really sharpest cutting edge, but they are in transitions from winning the ball forward, and as you say, I thought they were a little bit fortunate not to be given a foul against them there, but as they make transitions from back to front, they are one of the most devastating teams in Europe, and for the neutrals like us, it's extremely pleasant to watch.
Rodrigo offside as Carvajal returned it to him from the throw-in.
Not too clever, Andy.
And the final change for Espanyol is going to be Paul Lozano, who is normally a central midfielder, and he's another of those, Graham, that has come through that excellent Espanyol youth system. You mentioned joined the club at the age of 7, he's been with them ever since, been with the B team mostly in the last couple of years. He's also a Spanish under-21 international, so yet another of those bright young talents that Espanyol hope, even if this season does end as it looks like with relegation, will make them stronger in the future.
Totally agree, and at his relatively young age, He's already had a decent amount of European football experience. 6 times he played in the Europa League campaign this season, which can only help him. Let's see what Rafetti thinks he can do specifically and whether that brings a slight change of team structure.
Melendo ran into a cul-de-sac. Rodrigo will try to make something of it. Cabrera sticking to the task. And a throw-in for Real Madrid is the outcome, which might be the signal for that 5th and final change to be made by Rafetti, the interim coach. Here is Lozano, who's only 20 years old. And it's an attacking move because the defensive midfielder David Lopez has come off. And Paul Lozano will go alongside Marc Roca now.
Yeah, and Espanyol are looking out for a hero. Let's see if it's him. Just slightly surprised that Zidane hasn't thought that refreshing midfield, having somebody on the ball to keep the ball like they're not doing at the moment there, is a good option for him.
Yeah, only 2 changes made by Zidane. As Melendo tries to turn away, Ramos wouldn't let him. Ramos has had another very good game in defence. There was a touch from Melamed to Raul de Tomas. Roca. First touch for Paul Lozano. Sizing up a shot maybe, but instead he sends it wide. Melendo with the cross. Battling for it is RDT, and it wouldn't quite fall for him. Courtois out quickly.
And he couldn't quite get in front of Courtois to make the Belgian risk a challenge. If he just got a metre more, half a metre more, then Courtois couldn't have made that diving lunge. RDT has been really interesting tonight, and if this club does go down, then the sad thing is, even though he's a contract until 2026, he won't be staying.
Long throw from Cabrera, bounces twice. Marcelo then unceremoniously thumps it away high. Difficult one for Gomez to deal with. Oh, Vinicius. Hello, ball, I'll bring you down. And sets off on a sprint, but takes the ball over the line out for a throw-in. I think he'd been watching Santi Cazorla earlier on with this piece of control. Beautiful. 5 minutes of normal time to go, plus probably 5 of added time. Generally has been the way since the restart with the cooling break. We have 5 minutes added on, and Rufete certainly involved in this game, as is Zinedine Zidane. It's still in the balance.
Look at that face. You can absolutely see that he's both a little bit tense and a little bit cross.
It was the eyes, wasn't it? Focused with real intent on the action.
What did he say midweek, Andy? He said, don't think about me being a coach for the next 20 years. Yeah. I'll be retired long before that. It's nights like these.
Yeah, it's a rather stressful job, even when you're coach of Real Madrid and you win more games than most. And Zidane recently reached 200 games in charge, didn't he, with 10 trophies, a trophy every 20 games.
And something like 180 changed lineups in that time, which tells you that he's a man for adventure. He's a man who believes that he can. His man management is probably as much of an asset as his coaching was. And he said, I was a better footballer than I've been as a coach so far. So the record that you've just read out there, which is utterly extraordinary, including 3 Champions League as an outright coach, plus 1 as assistant coach, he's a very special man, but I bet he's not enjoying this tonight. And now his team has to face a free kick coming into the box, no doubt.
A yellow card is shown to Vinicius. And yes, Espanyol will have the chance to deliver the ball into the box as they go in search of an equaliser that would thrill Barcelona fans as much as their own for once. Roca will deliver.
RDT handing out the clear instructions.
Played in by Roca. It's a good ball and all the way through, and you wonder why Cabrera wasn't attacking that. He sort of let it run. Maybe it would have bounced over him anyway. Kayeri was the one challenging for it. And this was, if you remember the game against Barcelona, Graham, I'm sure you do, when David Lopez scored, just being substituted, but it was a very similar delivery from Marc Roca, wasn't it? Same position that just was met by David Lopez on that occasion with the goal, and it wasn't far off a repeat there.
Sorry to reach for a technical term, but they've twice today gone within a haircut and scoring. because Bernardo in the first half, that little ball from Roca, got his head to it, not quite enough. There again, it's not as if Real Madrid are exactly living on the nerves, but they made a much more difficult job of this tonight than they needed to.
Paul Lozano runs into trouble, and it's Vinicius giving it back to Toni Kroos. 2 minutes of normal time. Real Madrid looking to hold on for the win that will send them 2 points clear at the summit of La Liga. But there's a misplaced pass from Benzema. Raul de Tomas tries to score from the halfway line, but there was a foul on Benzema as he released the ball. There it was by Paul Lozano. Real Madrid in no hurry whatsoever to take it. Still only 2 subs made, and we're starting to see, Graham, a little bit more of coaches withholding substitutions. Maybe they feel the players are getting acclimatised to the rhythm of the games now. Rodrigo. Carvajal to Rodrigo. Valverde back towards Rodrigo but doesn't quite find him. Paul Lozano, heavy touch, and he has to clear it hurriedly, but it's a good ball to RDT. Looking for an option, dragged down by Varane. Espanyol now want to up the tempo. Now they want to throw more players forward. Now they want to take a few more risks. Melendo feeds it in for Cagliari, but not a great pass. And Casemiro, as he always seems to be, in the right place, helping out his defence.
Just want to pick up your comment about coaches maybe occasionally thinking, okay, we're back to somewhere near full fitness, the players can last out. Coaches are human too. I'm not actually saying that Zidane has forgotten about how many substitutes he has allowed tonight, but it doesn't make any sense whatsoever that at very least he hasn't chosen to waste a few seconds just to break things up a little bit and pass messages to his team by making at least 1 substitute, if not 2. Coaches are human. Sometimes they get caught up in the tension and just simply forget basic things.
The 90 minutes are up. There will only be 4 minutes added on, partly because, as we talked about, the lack of substitutions that have taken place. And Real Madrid will try to make sure that those 4 minutes pass without incident. Casemiro short to Kroos. Benzema back to Ramos, who sends it long for Carvajal. Can't be nodded down for Valverde. This is exactly what Real Madrid want, just keep the ball. They're doing it well. Valverde and Rodrigo exchanging passes back for Casemiro. Benzema, Vinicius outside him, so too Marcelo. Well, Real Madrid probably, Graham, could just spend 4 minutes passing the ball to each other, and they'd be perfectly happy to do that.
It looks like they intend to, and now the victory, which Espanyol needed, looks to have gone.
Vinicius did make some headway down the left, but he takes the safe option, comes back to Toni Kroos. Now over to Carvajal, who's able to keep it in. Rodrigo moves into the middle. The cross is gathered by Diego Lopez, and finally Espanyol have it back.
Yeah, Danny Carvajal didn't get the memo. There wasn't really a need to do that with 2.5, 3 minutes remaining. You wouldn't call it a misjudgment, but I bet you Zidane was saying hold, pass, hold, don't cross.
If you must take it anywhere upfield, take it to the corner flag, and the old routine of
just so
protect the ball. Espanyol have 2 minutes to try and find an equaliser from this game. Wide to Adri Pedrosa. Takes on Carvajal, asks for a handball, doesn't get it, and a clever back heel means Casemiro can clear, but he just dwells on that a little. And then the free kick for the challenge by Melamed on Valverde.
Yeah, it's become if not ponderous, slow. But let's not, from Real Madrid's perspective, underestimate this victory, which it now looks like being in any way. I think that we've seen a side that has put so much into their recent games that tiredness has been a factor. They've created a brilliant goal, which now looks like the winner. Espanyol have played with intelligence, organisation, a zest that was absent in recent weeks, and therefore, if this whistle goes with Real Madrid winning 1-0, they will treat it as a victory of enormous proportions, and weary though they are, they will celebrate.
Up next for Real Madrid, arguably their two toughest remaining games. They have a local derby against Getafe on Thursday evening, followed by a very tough away trip to Athletic Club next Sunday, early afternoon, 2 o'clock Spanish time, that one. And that will be a very good game because Athletic are playing well and strong at home, and they're still pushing for European qualification. So 2 tough games ahead for Real Madrid this week. They've very nearly crossed the finishing line here at the RCD Stadium. Maybe one more chance to get the ball forward for Espanyol, as that is what Melendo tries to do. No free kick given, but it will be now for Casemiro's challenge on Melamed. So one last chance for Espanyol. They've taken it quickly. RDT with the cross, looking for Cagliari, who couldn't bring it back across goal at all. Very nearly Marcelo with a deflection into his own net, but it goes wide, and that was the last action of the game. And as you said, Graham, they're celebrating this as a very vital win, and so right they should, because they are now 2 points ahead of Barcelona. They've done the job today. It wasn't sparkling, but it was enough. Casemiro named the king of the match. He was the match winner with the considerable assistance of Karim Benzema. A beautiful assist, back heeled by the Frenchman, to allow Casemiro to power it home from close range. This was the last action of the game where Cagliari tried to recreate the famous Marco van Basten goal in the 1988 European Championship final. But he didn't make clean connection, and then the second ball back across goal hit Marcelo and flew kindly wide for Real Madrid. So that was the last roll of the dice for Espanyol. They suffer another defeat and remain bottom. Real Madrid get 5 wins out of 5 on the return to action in LaLiga Santander, and they go back top with the 2-point lead over Barcelona. That man, the match winner, as it finishes at the RCD Stadium. Espanyol 0, Real Madrid 1.